Well, YouTube, I felt like I needed to make another video because an amazing thing has happened in my life. This may be the greatest day of my entire life from day one, which isn't really saying that much because day one wasn't so good. But anyway, welcome to the Bubba Continuum. I want to talk about my non-green washing machine that I got today. This is the most wonderful thing that's happened to me in eons. I don't know if you know about this. You may have an old washing machine. You may be one of the fortunate people who's using a washing machine that's 20 years old that still runs. And if so, I have some great information for you that you really need to know. Washing machines are no good now. People on the left, the statists, the leftists, the environment worshippers, they at some point in the past came up with some laws. I don't know what they are. I haven't looked them up, but I know this is a result of laws because there's no way manufacturers would have done this to themselves on purpose. I mean, unless they were forced. They wrote some kind of a law that said washing machines had to use less water and less electricity. So that's why you now have a washing machine, most of you, which is a front loader, has a big hole in the front, and it takes forever to clean your clothes. It doesn't clean them very well. Your clothes smell like mold all the time, no matter what you do. And you have to bend over to load it because it's so low to the ground, and it's really unpleasant, especially if you have to move wet clothes for some reason and they're heavy. It's a bad scene. And the answer to the problem of the height, they sell you for another $200 or something. They'll sell you a ridiculous base to put under your washing machine, so you have to pay for that and lift it up. And then of course your washing machine doesn't fit in the hole that it came from because your cabinets are over it. So anyway, washing machines stink. They're terrible. They're horrible. They have these rubber gaskets in them that collect water, and they have these big systems in them that collect water. They don't use a lot of water, and as a result of that, they don't get your clothes very clean. They say, oh, independent tests show that they get your clothes cleaner. Well, sure, I guess if you put one rag in there, maybe. And it depends on what you mean by cleaner, too. Smearing a stain around so you can't see it isn't the same thing as cleaning. You need a lot of water to really clean things. It's not enough just to loosen things up so they don't stain. You've got to use a lot of water to rinse out the filth. I mean, clothing is full of stuff like, I mean, let's be honest. I don't want to be gross, but it's, you know, when you put your stuff in there, if you've got a big family, there's going to be feces, there's going to be urine, there's going to be snot. Every other secretion that comes out of the human body will be on your clothing. Skin oil, makeup, dirt, sometimes vomit. I mean, a lot of bad things. And the only way to really get rid of it is to use a lot of water. But apparently people on the left have decided that water is sacred now. It's extremely important. We're going to run out of it. The world's covered with it. But apparently we can't get any of it because water is now holy. So they got these machines, they don't use a lot of water, and they're terrible. I've had two of these things in a row. They're both made by the LG company. And LG, they claim that the name stands for Life's Good. I don't think that's really what it stands for. It probably stands for something really horrible. But anyway, I had two of these LG machines. I've still got an LG dryer, which isn't very good. And they had all kinds of gadgetry on them, and LEDs and lights and programs. And one of the clues to the fact that you're being treated like a sucker is the fact that your product has a lot of gadgetry on it that you don't need. If you go into a commercial laundry, you're going to see machines like this that have very few settings on them, and they work better than the one that you got with all the LEDs and the gadgets and the computer programs, and it hooks up to your smartphone. I kid you not, they hook up to your smartphone, some of these things. You don't need any of that stuff to get your clothing clean, and it's very expensive to replace. It always breaks down. The LED stuff, the computer stuff always breaks down, and you can get the parts on the internet, sure, for $100 a piece or $200 a piece, and then you have to pay somebody to install it. And what I found when I had LEG machines, when they broke down, was you weren't allowed to hire the guy down the street that you know is honest and who charges a reasonable rate. You got to pay LG to send their technician out. That's what I had to do. I don't know if that's changed. Anyway, they were full. My old machines were full of gadgetry, and they both broke down. The first one broke down not long after I got it. I made the mistake of putting towels in it, and of course the bearing went out. And this thing has a horizontal, not this one, but the old one. It had a horizontal drum, which is a stupid idea. If you got a drum that's mounted horizontally like this, then it's going to have one bearing back here that holds up the whole thing. And you might have 50 pounds of wet clothing in this thing, and it's trying to spin around, and it's vibrating, causing trouble. And that bearing is going to go bad over time. It's going to go bad pretty soon if you use your machine the way you used your old machine. Back in the 90s, you used to throw stuff in your washing machine and not worry about it. It came out fine. If you don't pamper machines now, those bearings go bad, and you have all kinds of other problems. So I had trouble with these machines. They broke down, and I didn't like them. They were horrible. My clothing always stank. It was terrible. Mold grew inside the machinery, and it was so bad that the companies that made these things, people sued them and so forth, and they said, "Oh, we've got new technology now. They don't make your clothing stink." And then you go on the internet and you find out, oh, actually they do. They do still make your clothing stink. They really didn't change anything. And what happens is these things the old machines are full of water. The old new machines. I call them the old machines because this is my new machine, but obviously they're the new machines. Anyway, they got all kinds of weird plumbing inside them, and the water never really leaves. And you have this idea in your head, you say, well, I'll just run bleach through it. Well, it doesn't work. That may clean the rubber gasket on the door, but there's still all this piping and weirdness inside that's full of bacteria and last week's, bodily secretions, and it never really gets clean. So your clothing stinks all the time, and people say, oh, well, just leave the door open. It's fine. It's just leave the door open, and everything will be great because it will dry out and it won't mildew. No, that doesn't work. That'll keep some of the mildew from forming, but there's always going to be water in the tub. There's always going to be water in the gasket. There's always going to be water in the piping and all the weird stuff inside. So no, it doesn't work. In short, it doesn't work. And there's a company that sells a little weird fan that you put in your washing machine, and that's supposed to help, but it doesn't really help. None of these things help. There's no way to fix it. It's a stupid design. It's what the left always does to us. They say there's a problem which may or may not really exist. Like, we're running out of water and we're running out of electricity, so let's fix this problem before we have the right technology. So let's sell everybody curly fluorescent bulbs that don't actually work. It takes them a minute and a half to come on. By then you're out of the room. You turn it on, you come in, you bump around in the dark, and then you leave, and then the light comes on. And they're full of mercury, and you're not supposed to dispose of them. Although, of course, I took mine to the dump with the regular trash. Anyway, you're not supposed to dispose of them in the regular, landfill pathway. Or what else have they done that's really dumb? Ethanol gas doesn't work. It destroys small engines. If you have small engines like chainsaws and stuff like that, you know what I'm talking about. This stuff's horrible. You have to, if you buy a chainsaw, you pretty much have to buy a sonic cleaner along with it to clean your carburetor out several times a year because of the ethanol. So I don't know. They've given us ethanol gas and all kinds of stupid environmental solutions to problems that may or may not really exist. They can't wait for the good technology. When it comes to light bulbs, LEDs finally came along and they became reasonably priced, and they work great. I use LEDs all the time. They use very little electricity. They don't get hot. They're less of a fire hazard. Et cetera, et cetera. But for 10 years we had to use those stupid bulbs that Al Gore liked. That lasted like 2 months and cost $8 or something. So they're always trying to push some ridiculous solution on us. They took away grocery bags and straws in a lot of places in America. I used to live in Coral Gables, where they have a ridiculous environmental savior complex, and they banned plastic shopping bags and plastic straws, which is ridiculous because the reason those things are a problem is that sea turtles and other critters that live in the sea, eat them and choke on them and so forth. Well, guess what? America doesn't dump its garbage in the sea. China does. So we deprived ourselves of wonderful, useful products and didn't do the environment any good whatsoever because the Chinese are going to continue dropping, plutonium. You name it, whatever it is they got, it's going in the ocean. So total waste of time. And the other weird thing about it is plastic garbage bags, or not garbage bags, plastic grocery bags, shopping bags, they're better for the environment because they take up less room in landfills. People think that you put a paper bag in a landfill, it goes away in 3 months. No, it stays there forever because no oxygen can get to it and it can't decompose. So it's there for eternity. It takes up more room, costs more to make, costs more to ship. Landfill fills up sooner. There's a lot of pollution associated with paper mills. So just one stupid thing after another they're doing to us. And I had these machines, and my clothes always smelled. Didn't matter what I did. And it was a horrible thing because sometimes you could get them to where they didn't smell all that much, and then what would happen is you'd start to sweat a little, or you'd go out on a rainy day and you'd get a little bit wet, and suddenly you smell like a big piece of cheese. You'd smell like a big locker full of like sweaty jock straps that hadn't been washed in 6 months. That's really and you know what I'm talking about. Everybody in America has noticed this problem by now. So it was just horrendous, and it was even in my bed clothes. If I washed sheets or pillows or whatever, I ended up with mold and mildew inside those. And so what's happening when you go to bed at night? You're inhaling mold and mildew, and it makes you congested. So it's horrible. It's awful. Whoever did this, they're the ones who should be out floating around in the ocean being eaten by sea turtles. It was dreadful. I love the answers they have for these things. I mean, hold the door of your clothing washer open. Just leave it open all the time. Yeah, so you bump into it all the time when you're in the laundry room. You know, ridiculous. Well, anyway. I know I'm rambling because it's one of these things that really just sticks in my craw. It really gets on my nerves. A pet peeve. I've suffered with these things for years. Finally, by the grace of God, my washing machine, my Chinese washing machine with the big front door, started making noises like 3 days ago. And 2 days ago, I realized it was bad, and I placed an order. And I ordered this thing. I had been waiting for this thing to go bad. I won't say I was praying for it to self-destruct, but I would have if I thought about it. I was looking for an excuse to replace this washing machine. I knew what was wrong with it. The bearing on the drum had gone bad. And you can replace these things. It's like $30 for a bearing. And all you have to do is spend about 2 days taking your washer apart and putting it back together so you can go back to the mold routine. And I said to myself, no, that's not going to happen. So I knew that there used to be washing machines that didn't smell and didn't cause problems. And so I went to look them up. There's a company called Speed Queen that most people are familiar with, and they make commercial washers and dryers. And up until about 2017, they made a couple of really nice, simple, extremely sturdy residential, consumer units. And these were like $950 each. And they did what old washing machines did. They filled up with a lot of water, so your clothes actually got clean. They did a load quickly. No smell, lasted forever. And then in around 2017, they quietly got rid of those models. And now they don't exist. So if you go and buy a Speed Queen now and you think, aha, I got a commercial washing machine, I beat the system. Well, you're wrong. You're completely wrong. Because you're actually buying a new greeny, Al Gore leftist washing machine that's going to make your clothes smell. Also, they have plastic water pumps, so they leak. So you don't want a Speed Queen anymore. I'm sorry to tell you, unless you can buy one that's a few years old. But oddly enough, there's a guy on the internet who's got some kind, I don't know if it's a mental disorder or what, but he's a wonderful, wonderful human being because he buys washing machines. He goes out and he buys washing machines and he takes them home and he tests them. I don't know why he does this. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. But if you go to his YouTube channel, which I don't know the name of it, I'm sure you can find it. He has a website called Lorraine Furniture, and you can look it up there. Anyway, he tests washing machines, and he used to recommend that people get Speed Queens. And so I went back to his website to find out what he was recommending now, and he said that he had found one model of washing machine that actually still worked, and this is it. Actually, this isn't it. There's two models. He was wrong. There's this one, and it has a sister model, and they're both made by Maytag commercial, and one of them has a little bit better warranty than the other. The way you can identify these models, I'm too lazy to look up the model number, but one of them has 575 in the number, and the other has 576, and this is a 576. So this thing, obviously it's a top loader, very simple. The controls, I mean, they're mindless. Can you see those controls? I don't even know. It's got 6 settings. This is my new pointer. It's my gun cleaning rod. Bulky towels, power wash, delicates mix, normal rinse and spin, drain and spin. That's really it. And you can have it soak a little bit, and then you can regulate the temperature. It has knobs. It has no LEDs to go bad. It doesn't have a computer, as far as I know. If it does, I'll tear it out. So huge stainless steel drum. You could move into this thing. It's gigantic. And when it fills up, it doesn't fill up to here. It fills up to here. Okay? It's magnificent. It should last, 20 years. I installed this thing today, and as soon as I got it hooked up, the first thing I did was I threw 2 big blankets in it, because one of the problems with the Chinese washers with the greenie nonsense. See, this is one of the irritating things about these leftist solutions, is they always turn out to cause more problems than they solve. So they sell you this washing machine. It costs $1,200, and it's supposed to be green and friendly and do all this stuff and get your clothes cleaner. Well, you find out when you use it, you can't put a full load in it because the stuff in the middle of the load will not get wet. So what you end up doing is you wash your laundry and you take it out, and half of it's sort of clean and the other half still has filth on it because it never got wet in the first place. And something that's really funny, my washing machine had a special function called Water Plus, because they knew that it didn't work. I ended up having to do 2 things. I had to break all my loads in half, and I had to use the plus cycle. And I actually had to do three things. Very often I had to use the bulky cycle. If I wanted to put anything in there, I had to use the cycle that's for like comforters and stuff. Well, what happens when you do these things? You end up using twice as much water. I mean, not twice as much water as this thing, but twice as much water as the modern washer uses. So it's supposed to use. You end up using twice as much water, twice as much electricity. It takes twice as much time. Your time does have some value. And then when it comes out, the laundry is very wet, and it takes much more energy to dry it. So in the end, you're much worse off than you would have been had you just used one of these things in the first place. So I threw my blankets in this thing today, and I set a timer. And I did 2 loads of laundry. This thing was delivered, I don't know, like 8:30 or something like that. And by 10:15 or 10:18, something like that, I had done 2 loads of laundry. This thing will do a load of laundry. Not in 90 minutes like my old washing machine. My old washing machine had an LED display that would say 43 minutes, 42 minutes for, at the beginning of the cycle. And I would go and set my stove timer to 90 minutes because the LED display lied. It was a total lie. Everybody knows this. It would say there'd be 4 minutes left, and I go sit down and read a book for 15, 20 minutes and come back and it would say 1 minute left. So I was anxious to find out how fast this thing was. This thing does a load not in 90 minutes, not in 60 minutes, not in 45 minutes, not in 30 minutes. It does a load in 27 minutes. And I mean a big load all the way filled up. You can open the lid and throw more stuff in. You might have to push the pause button or something. I mean, it's just like an old washing machine for the most part. Except that for some reason, I don't know if somebody got paid off. I don't know if there was a bribe, except it's available now new. So I am thrilled to death with this thing. This is huge to me. I know it sounds stupid, but the old washer, I smelled. I hurt my back putting stuff into it, taking it out. It took forever. If you wanted to wash clothes at 8 o'clock at night, forget it. You couldn't do it. You had to wait until the next day and start doing it, in the morning or in the afternoon. I can now do 2 loads an hour with this thing. That's incredible. I suffered so much with that stupid washing machine. I was so glad to see it go. This thing has changed my life. And it's like, I'm a kind of a religious nut. I talk about God all the time on my channel. And it's really amusing to me because I feel like it's like I've had a laundry rapture. I'm being drawn out of the Antichrist's greeny, environmentalist, Nazi throng. People are being held hostage. You can't have a straw. You can't have a cup. You can't have a washing machine that works. You can't throw anything out like a normal human being. You have to take it to a special facility. Well, I'm out of that stuff. I've been pulled out, and this thing, I will do whatever it takes to keep this thing running. And if I sell this house and move, this thing is coming with me. And if you got an old washing machine, if you got like a 20-year-old or 15-year-old washing machine that actually works, you need to know something. When your washing machine goes bad, you may be able to fix it. And if you have to put $600 in it or $700, that may seem like a lot of money. Do it. Do it, because when you get your Chinese machine, there is no going back unless you want to buy one of these. This was, I think, $950. Worth every dime. Worth twice what I paid for it. If your washing machine now is working well, you got a bitter surprise coming to you when it finally poops out, unless you know what you're doing. I'm just overjoyed. I wish it's like having a thorn pulled out of my foot that I've been walking around on for 15 years. Every woman who has a big family, I'm sexist. Sorry, how many big families have men who do all the laundry? Sorry. If you're a woman and you have 6 kids, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, 30 minutes a load instead of 90 minutes a load. And when you take the clothes out, the vomit and the pee and the grape juice and whatever else your kids have got on the clothing, it's out, it's gone, and you'll never see it or smell it again. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I got a tip for you. If you're in one of these crazy places where they won't let you use plastic straws or plastic bags, you can buy, they're called t-shirt bags, those little wonderful plastic bags, magnificent modern invention. The little bags they have at grocery stores, you can buy them on eBay. I've seen them for $14 for 1,000, which ought to last you a good while. So you buy 1,000 of those things, and then when you go to your smug, greeny grocery store, and they have a sign up that says paper bags or bring your own, give them your plastic bags and say, I brought my own. There's nothing they can do. They're barred from giving you a plastic bag, but they can't prevent you from taking one. So use your plastic bags, and when you get home, throw them out. Who cares? And when you go to McDonald's, take your own straws. Nobody can stop you. I love it. I love beating the system. I feel like showing you all the laundry that I did today. Sometimes the environment has to take one for the team. You know, people are more important than obscure species of cockroaches and snails. I'm sorry to tell you that. Sometimes the environment has to take one for the team. I mean, when it comes down to me wearing clothes that make me smell like I'm homeless, or you know, a tiny dent in the environment's well-being, the environment can drop dead. Okay? We're getting way too extreme with this environmental stuff. I don't care about the whales. If the Japanese and the Norwegians want to eat whales, fine. Eat all the whales you want. Make jackets out of them. Make upholstery. Whale upholstery in your car. Couldn't care less. I eat pigs. Why shouldn't I eat a whale? What's the difference? I'm so tired of this nonsense. The environment can just drop dead. And I'll tell you something else before I sign off. This thing's supposed to save, not this thing, the other machine's supposed to save power. Well, this thing came with a sticker, all right, a sticker on the top, because they have to tell you what it costs to run the things every year, which is probably a lot of BS. But they put these stickers on. Guess what the yearly cost of this thing is to run in electricity? $18. You don't have to guess. I'll just tell you, $18. So even if the other machine didn't use any power at all, the most you could save in a year was $18 worth of electricity, which is basically nothing. You know, don't charge your phone for a couple of days. I mean, it means absolutely nothing. And as for water, I live on a farm. I've got wells. I have an endless supply of water. Oh, it's all interconnected. Yeah, you know what? My water supply is not very well connected to the people who live a quarter of a mile away. I'm sorry, it's just not. I mean, okay, if I had some kind of farm, if I were growing crops here and I were pumping thousands of gallons out every day, yeah, you'd have a case. But my laundry has zero impact on my neighbor's water. It's not going to create sinkholes. It's not going to create a drought. It's not going to, you know, it's not going to make Al Gore have seizures. It's fine. It's great. I love the fact that this thing fills all the way up with water. I just want to get in and bathe in it. I'm going to be buried with this washing machine, and I'm going to have it filled with plastic straws and t-shirt bags. I love it. I love it. I love it. Get one of these things, or if you've got an old washing machine, keep it running for as long as possible. Do not let the greenies run your life. They have no idea what they're doing. I guess I better stop ranting. I just can't get over this greatest day. Wonderful.